Small business owner check. This is my name. This is the name of my company. This is what my company does. This is why I love what I do. This is an accomplishment I'm proud of. This is where you can find me online. And if you're a small business owner, introduce yourself in the comments and let's support.
The week,
You were muted.
kind of. So, welcome back.
Welcome everyone to another episode of A Seat at the Dinner Table. I am Taman,
And I'm Kim.
and today we are going to be talking about why are the millennials leaving the church. But first, we will go over what we are having for dinner this evening.
So, tonight we are. Hey, sis. Tonight we're having vegetable beef stew. And it's just beef cubes, zucchini, peppers, bell peppers, red, orange, yellow, and onions and stew.
And stew for the
It's fitting because it's
nice,
winter time now. It's cold out some days. It's
very.
fitting. It was in a crock pot. Super simple, super
Yeah.
easy.
How do you pin stuff?
Mhm.
Lord, here I go. Okay.
Bruh, it's bruh. It's not sis.
Okay, what's going on? What's going on? So if you this is an open forum. So if you'd like to join us, we have in the chat the StreamYard link that you can come in and join us.
Yes.
Because we definitely would like to hear different opinions.
Points of view.
Exactly. And that's really what brought this about. So anyone that's viewing, you want to chime in, by all means. But let's just start with one statistic that I found out doing research, and it says 59% of the millennials who were raised in church have stopped attending church.
Is
So
it
that's
59%?
59%. That is more than half.
Now, is this pre-COVID or post-COVID?
This is post COVID
Okay.
or in COVID, post, because I guess we're still in COVID,
Right. Right.
technically.
I didn't know if the statistics were dated like before COVID happened though, because I feel like with the pandemic happening, a lot of people anyway started. Well, they had to leave the church because
Mhm.
nobody was able to actually go in person, but then they started doing online stuff.
Right.
So,
So, we can start with our story, I
mhm.
guess.
Yeah,
So, I go first.
yeah.
Okay. um, so me personally, I was raised in the church. My both side of the family was heavy into church, into Christianity, and um went to church every Sunday, Bible study every Wednesday. My great uncle was my pastor for the longest time that I grew up on.
Mhm.
Um, it was a non-denominational church. It was very small. Needless to say, that was where the basis of church was for me. My grandma was in a Baptist church. She was a reverend, well, ministered and turned reverend. But ultimately, when I seen it as a chore as a teenager
Mhm.
and going off to college. I was like, there's no church. I don't see myself going to church in Baltimore. So, needless to say, um, I didn't attend too many church services while I was in college.
Right. Same.
And I did go to a couple, however, and I felt kind of out of place in a sense. So, really, just life happened. And I think growing up in the church so much and it being a rigorous task, um, and at that mindset as a teenager growing up, you're thinking you're just going there just to see people, to be quite honest,
Right.
family and whatnot. I mean, yes, you believe and whatnot, but
You
for the
talking
most
about
part,
like high school, younger
yeah,
days?
yeah, high school, younger days. Um, but then as an adult, I wanted to get closer, and especially once I got married and had kids, I wanted my kids to have foundation. Needless to say, some things happened that pushed me back into the church and was religiously going. And then all of a sudden, it was some things that just didn't line up with me that I started looking into myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped going. I know that you were still going when I stopped going.
I thought, okay, yeah.
And then it got to a point to where I was like, we can't move like this. We got to be one unit. So I had a talk with my wife about a lot of things that bothered me just about church in general. And she let me know some things that she felt, which I mean, she'll say in her piece, and we joined as a
But this is
unit.
just backstory, right?
Yeah, backstory.
Okay.
And we left.
So from I'm steady talking, mic muted. So for me, I can remember when I lived in Virginia, we went to church on a regular basis. I can remember my grandma going faithfully just about every Sunday. Even if she wasn't feeling good, she was still making it to church. I remember driving to her house and then we'd all go as a family before we moved. And so church was regular for me. But as a kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, all I know is I get to see my friends at church. I was on the kids choir, so I got to sing at church.
You was
Going
singing.
to I did sing a little bit.
Look at you.
I remember like my mom going to choir rehearsal because the church we went to, they had like 5 different choirs, I think. I'm gonna say four that I know of. The kids, the people that was I mean, now they're not old, but my mom's age, she was in her late 20s, early 30s.
Right.
They had that age group, then they had my grandmom's age group, and then they had like a men's choir. So I can remember four, but we were going to church on those nights. I can't say I remember going to church like Bible study and stuff, but all I know is we were there at least twice a week, service and rehearsals and stuff. Then when we moved to Delaware, it took us a while to get back into the swing of things of going to church. But whenever we would go to Virginia, we were in church. It was the normal thing. It was the thing to do, was be in church. But I didn't have like a deep
Sister
understanding.
Dale.
I didn't have a deep understanding of why we were doing it. It was just the thing to do.
Mhm.
So fast forward to when I got into college. I think before I went off to college, or maybe the year after my freshman year,
Boy, college boy, get you.
I came home, actually joined a church. And it's funny because I don't even know if I ever told you this. I was sitting in church with my mom. We had visited this church for a while. And it was at the time of church when they say, if you feel led, come up and, if you want to join the church, get saved. And I truly felt like I was pushed. Like literally somebody pulled my shoulders up and pushed me forward.
Yeah, you did tell me that.
But I was like, I'm not ready to go. I don't want to go. But I felt this force like, oh, okay, guess I'm up now. I'm in the aisle. I'm going out down here. So then I got baptized, joined the choir.
Mhm.
This is all throughout the summertime.
You
So
singing, girl.
I was scared to sing. So I was kind of like low key playing it in the back.
Mhm.
But I went off to college the following fall.
Mhm.
No church. Everything was gone because I didn't really understand, even in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I didn't understand what I was doing. I just remember that church was the thing to do. So I never had like a deep understanding of church like you did. I understood a little bit about like working on my relationship
Okay.
with God, but I still didn't get the whole deep understanding and concept of um going to church and what it actually meant. It's funny because I remember a comment that one of the girls made in church. She said, "Oh, we got some more tithers now." Completely went over my head. I had no idea what that meant. No idea. All I knew is that you go to church, you got $2, a dollar, or $2 in your pocket.
Mhm.
That's what goes in offering.
Got you.
That's all I knew. I knew nothing about tithes. It wasn't explained to me.
Mhm.
Nothing. So went through college, life, youth, married you, talked about it, wanted to be in church again,
Mm-hmm.
found a church, and we went through that, and then we didn't.
Then we didn't. Then we didn't.
Yes, definitely like life lessons and great teachings and things, but it was just some other things that I for me personally, I felt like I wasn't getting what I was looking for. And every time I like raised my hand, spoke out, because I was going to Bible study, regular service, I was going to church 2 days a week because we did praise and worship on Bible study days.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I wasn't getting what I was searching for. And whenever I would raise my hand to ask questions, my questions would get answered, but I wouldn't get the answers that I was looking for, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So in a sense, I completely, and still to this day, feel lost sometimes on certain things. And it's an embarrassment to me because I don't understand some things. And then I get frustrated because I don't understand. And I'm like, okay.
But why be embarrassed?
Because I'm 36 and there's still I know there's a lot of people that don't understand a lot, but I feel like I'm not grasping the concept sometimes of everything.
I mean, so
Hold on.
okay.
So one of the things that gets under my skin, go back to your first assignment and you'll know. What am I gonna know if I don't know what the assignment is, and how am I supposed to figure that out? So that I can find out. But then when I go to the first assignment, I'm lost because I don't know what the first assignment is, so I don't know what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stay lost. And I'm like, I don't get it. And then I say that, and it's like, but you gotta go back. See, I'm going back to the streets. I'm going back to doing what I was doing. I'm confused. Help me. That's how I felt.
All right.
Okay.
So one of the things that you were saying was the questions
Mhm.
that you felt like were not getting answered. You can keep it on.
I didn't want to be slurping.
Oh,
Spoon
so
swinging in the mic.
like the questions
Oops, sorry.
that you sought out that you felt like it wasn't answered.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of one specifically?
Oh.
Okay, maybe not. Um, I know for me, and I've spoke about this before with others. It was the phrase, when you have some issues going on, just pray about it,
Mm-hmm.
or like you said, seek back to your first assignment, and you're kind of confused as to, okay, for one, if I pray about it, I've been praying about it. Do I continue to pray about it
Mm-hmm.
and just continue to pray about it and
I'm struggling.
not see what I'm supposed to see? Or the first assignment? What was the first assignment? There was a lot of like command. I don't know. It was a
Right.
lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion in a lot of things, and I'm the type of person that I like things to be clear cut in order for me to understand.
Right.
Um, and I think the more that I sought out for myself, and instead of actually not necessarily not trusting the pastor,
Mm-hmm.
but more so seeking for my validity, then it became more personal than superficial.
Mm-hmm.
And the church that I was attending at the time, it didn't it didn't feed where I felt like I was going and where I wanted to lead my family. I learned a lot of great things in that church and met a wonderful amount of people who are family to this day.
Right.
Um, However, in certain instances, I mean, you feel like you may have to move on, and it's no hard feelings, but at the same time, 59% of the millennials are leaving the church. What feelings do they
Right.
have? I wanted to see if there was any millennials out there that would speak up a little bit.
One thing that I have heard, speaking to younger people that I know, one thing that I've heard is that they feel like a lot of pastors, preachers, people in that position are misinterpreting the word and using it for personal benefit and gain instead of actually increasing your own knowledge and showing you. Like the misinterpretations or the way that they'll use like part of a scripture, it blows my mind. And I'm one who, you're telling me something, I'm not gullible, but if you're telling me something and you're in a position of power, I'm reading what you're telling me and then I can see your point of view. But then I guess that falls back on me because then I don't go back and study it to get my own interpretation of it. But then for me, it's like, okay, if I'm interpreting it this way, you're interpreting it that way, but this is the word itself. How am I supposed to know which way to go, which way to that's going to it's most beneficial for the most part. And so then you get to where like it's like, okay, these people in power are interpreting it this way, which is in turn making me do these things that'll benefit them, but there's no benefit trickling down to us as people.
Right.
So it's like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No question. This about going to the building. I I guess you could say necessarily going to the building, but more so the church as a whole. Um, Sort of like what Kim was saying along the lines of interpretation. I know me personally, when I study and I try to relate the scriptures to my family, I try to go back as far back as I can to the source. So when it goes to um, the Old Testament, I will go down to the concordances, down to the Hebrew, Aramaic. If you're talking about Daniel, um,
I'm lost.
she says she's lost. In the New Testament, going to the Greek, and even with Matthew, there is an Aramaic version as well. Even going back to the Hebrew, but just mainly getting back to as close as I can to the origin of what was said, and then try to relate it in a 21st century world. That's the way that I do things, and not to say anything bad about pastors or anything along those lines, but I think that a lot of times us millennials, we want to actually have something that's applicable.
Applicable.
Yep, applicable.
Or you can even say applicable.
Applicable.
I don't like that way.
To our daily life. We pray already. If it says pray, what else does it say? Like you said, the interpretations.
I've also heard. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're fine. Like one interpretation is the I guess the interpretation about tithing. We've talked about tithing. If one thing is that scripture is taken out of context, for one, and for two, when it's bashed down your throat in a certain way, it makes it to where you don't even want to see the meaning. Anytime you hear that scripture comes up, it already rings in your head. Okay, they're talking about tithing, they're talking about giving money. Whereas if you look at the story, then maybe you'll get a better understanding of what that actual scripture means and not just what the pastor says.
Right.
So it's kind of going back to search for yourself.
Yeah. I've also heard a lot of people say, I'm not gonna say a lot, but I've heard enough people say, of course I believe in God, but there's so many inconsistencies that they see or hear about in the Bible. It's like, I believe in God because I talk and have that relationship and I pray, but you want me to believe the interpretations in this Bible instead of what is being told what I feel like is being told to me by God, by the Most High.
Right.
I've heard that as well too, that as to why people don't go to church because they're more spiritual than, I don't know the other word. More
religious.
More spiritual than religious. And a lot of people are dropping the religious title as well because of different circumstances and things. Like you see some Christians, like I'm on TikTok a lot and other social media sites, and you see some people that say that they're Christian and literally are treating you like the scum of the earth. And it's like, that's not what I know of Christians to do to people and
Uh,
for people.
isn't KKK a Christian
Yeah,
back club?
I heard that it was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, and it just. I can say for me, growing up, I used to like the denominations used to throw me off. Like, how is it that you call your church and your denomination says pretty much, I'm not saying not quote unquote or anything, but your denomination is saying that you're better than this one, or you guys don't do this and they're wrong because they do that. And it's like, how do you determine that?
And see that when I looked at the denominations, it was, in my opinion, what it's showing is that a man had a certain way that he felt as though things should be done as far as the Bible is concerned.
Hmm.
And he went off and did his own thing and then got followers and
Hmm.
then became that sect of people.
That's why when we moved up here, it was really big for me to say, like, if we're going to get into church, then I don't want to do a denomination because I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah. What are y'all eating tonight? We are eating some stew.
Vegetable beef stew. It's got zucchinis, different bell peppers, and beef cubes and onions. And
Alexis, you want to join us? Come on. Just hit up the link. It's right there. I say it's right there. It's in the Facebook
it's in the
chat. It's in
chat.
the chat. Just click the link. You can come on in. We can chat, have some conversation because we would like to hear from other millennials besides ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, but needless to say, I've heard a lot of people as well talk about they are more spiritual than religious,
Mhm.
and especially when it comes to people of African American descent,
Mhm.
when they look at the history of the religion of Christianity and see how it was used to enslave. Um, she said, "I can't tonight. I'm acting like I'm watching TV." Okay, understood. Um, when you go to that type of history, they'll say that it's a white man's religion,
Mhm.
and under that white supremacy, come I'm not with Christianity. I'll roll with spirituality. I know that that's some that I've heard as
Mhm.
far as that is concerned. What is your thoughts on Christianity being a quote unquote white man's religion?
I mean, I've heard the same things. Like, it goes back to like slave mentality. It was taught to us to keep us enslaved.
Hmm.
But then my mind goes to, for lack of better words, because I can't think. There was religion. There are different religions in Africa
Hmm.
itself. Different countries in Africa, they honor God and
A
they follow
different
God
way.
in a different way.
Hmm.
So I can, I don't know. But I mean, I can definitely see how the way that it's written. But then again, it goes back to the interpretations because when we were studying the Torah,
Hmm.
white people weren't mentioned in the Torah like that. From my understanding, am I wrong? You looking at me?
No. And you say that again?
White people wasn't mentioned in the Torah.
Okay. I don't think
So
so.
even that goes back, and then I feel like Christianity is not. See, I didn't do deep
Baby,
study.
you fine.
Was Christianity mentioned in the Torah
No,
itself?
no.
So that's where I'm at with it.
Chris, like, okay, so Christianity goes back further than white supremacy. One thing,
Hmm.
if you want to have that argument as far as it being a white man's religion, it's really not.
Hmm.
But I don't want to go that deep.
Understood.
However, us living in this Western world and you label yourself as a Christian, you have so many things that can be attached to you based on the history. And since it's so broad, that it's like, do you actually want to have that title? Because, in a general sense, I guess it's supposed to mean to be Christ like.
Hmm.
However, if you do more digging in the Bible, the man that you call the man
I
that
think
you
he was
the
going.
man that you call your savior and Messiah he didn't come to bring a religion.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
Like if anything, he was as close to being Judaic
Mm-hmm.
than anything if you would want to be as far as a religion. But then that wasn't his religion, that was his culture.
His
Like that
culture,
was
yeah.
how they grew up. They had certain things that they went about, and that was, but that's neither here nor there. I don't want to go into a deep Bible study. But I know one thing, just me speaking on behalf of a lot of the guys that I've talked to, whether it be inside the church or outside the church, is that there's a lot of things that are not taught in the church, which in turn you go out into the secular world and you find out certain things, and then you go back to your pastor and ask, it's like, oh, those things are evil, or that's not right, that's not of God. And that's like the final answer. And it's like there's no
Like no
explanation.
explanation. Yeah.
And
And see, that bothers me because I'm the type of person and I'm trying to change my ways. I need explanation of things and I need to understand. It's so very hard for me to go with a that's just how it is, or that's just what it says. Like why? How? I need answers. I remember I was even asked before in a church setting, why do you need to know? Because I don't know. So now I want to know.
why do you need to know?
And yeah, yeah, and then it was why do you pretty much like why do you need to know the why of everything? Because they say that God moves in a way that no one can explain.
Hmm.
Now that I can attest to,
Hmm.
but if you're telling me that something is written, somebody has to explain it was written.
Yeah.
It was interpreted. Is that the way?
Assuming
Interpreted
there
it.
you go. Interpret it.
It's not working. It was interpreted in
Mhm.
the Bible by someone else, meaning like the different books and things they're telling the stories of, like sometimes they'll say what God said to them.
Mhm.
Still an interpretation because it's like
Mhm.
telephone.
Hmm.
So I like to understand the how and the why.
Now we've all as millennials have played the game of telephone, right?
Right.
And think about it like this: when you go through about ten people with that telephone line or whatever, and when it gets up to the end is something totally different, right?
Yep.
So I've taken the approach that you got to work your way backwards
Mm-hmm.
to get to the source of what's being said.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you think about it, and I blessed one of my she said those earrings.
Thank you. They're the biggest pair that I've made to date. Thank you.
Those earrings, definitely. Uh, yeah,
There we
that right
go.
there.
Funny.
But what was I saying?
Put some respect on my name.
Nah, that's not what I was saying at all.
You work backwards to do your own digging to get back
Yes,
to the source. I remember
yes,
something.
yes, yes. So
I remembered.
yes, one of the things that speaking to a former minister. I don't want to name drop on
Yeah, no.
here, but
Don't name
needless to
drop.
say, me and this guy, young guy. Well, he's not young, but he's like a couple of years younger than me. But
Yeah.
he is very wise beyond his years when it comes to uh, biblical knowledge and studies and all that. And the conversations that I've had with him, it all went back to finding out what is the source of this literature that we are following and reading, and why is it that the interpretation of this man who says that he's called by God have to be deemed as the end all be all. And I think that millennials are tired of it just saying, like you said, like,
It is
why
what
do
it
you
is.
want to know the whys, or it is what it is? Why isn't there anybody that's going out here trying to fix community ills? Why isn't it people that we're giving to the building funds and all these funds and whatnot, but yet we see people out here that are in need of work, that are in need of help and counseling and services and all of these things. And this is what we would think that the church would be there for.
Hmm.
So that I know that's another reason as to why some are leaving, and like realizing that like the church isn't necessarily the building. Like even the word church in Greek is ekklesia, which is meaning like the people. It's really
Oh,
funny. You're silly. But it's meaning the people. The people are the church. It's kind of like not a democracy, but like pretty much the people are the ones that you're supposed to be investing into, and not necessarily the building itself.
is that like when it goes back when what does it say? When one or two are gathered, he's in the midst of it.
Hmm.
It's kind of like church thing because you can literally fellowship and have church anywhere,
Very much so.
anywhere, especially being with like-minded people or someone trying to engage and learn
Hmm.
and grow.
On Friday nights, we have what people would deem as church. We the one or two or four or five are gathered. Um, we we study scripture. We learn the source of the words, so we can have a better understanding and see where there's a difference. We just commune together, gather about the week and all those things. And I mean,
Mhm.
one of the things that got to me was that I told my youngest daughter that we were going to go to my mother's church to visit.
Mhm.
And she was like, Daddy, I like home church. And it made me think like she had experienced the church that we had went to before, and then us having time in church and our house, quote unquote, and then her deciphering that I like staying home because I guess it's more interactive, it's more relatable. I don't know,
I don't know.
but needless to
That could
say,
go either way because she's a lazy sometimes.
yeah,
So it could go either
Sunday
way.
morning may not be something that she wants to.
There was something else that you mentioned as well. It church got to feel more of a chore. And I know for me, with me being on the praise and worship team and then Bible study, like it was on the same night. So I felt bad not going to Bible study, but then showing up for praise and worship afterwards. I felt bad with that. But then it got to a point where, like when you talk about like work-life balance,
Hmm.
I felt like because of work and because of life and then throwing church in there, that part of it wasn't the obligation. It was if I am not feeling good on Sunday and can't go, or if I'm like wore out and
Hmm.
can't go because I know I got to start work on Monday and I got to go to work,
Hmm.
I was trying to choose my words. I felt like the words that were said to me were, I'm going to say, it made me feel like I was getting in trouble for not showing up for church. Like I had to call out of church. And then was like, well, you weren't here on Sunday, so, or you missed this day, so, like that. I didn't like the way that felt
Right.
because I'm like, I'm tired. Like, I don't want to get up here and pass out because I'm literally that exhausted. What are we doing here?
Oh, we got a guest.
Hey, was this an accident? He's muted.
He's muted. Let's take him off mute.
Oh, is that safe?
Oh, he chose to mute himself.
Well, either way, I felt like I didn't like being made to feel bad if I had to like take some time away. If I had to step away for a minute to gather myself to get life together because life happens. And like you said, sometimes the you can pray about it. All right, I'm praying about it,
Hmm.
but I still feel this way. I still feel down. I still feel defeated. Am I praying wrong? Tell me what to pray. What am I doing wrong? Because I still feel this way.
Yeah.
So that in itself as well, me, it was just I didn't like being made to feel like I was doing something wrong by not showing up,
Hmm.
even with giving notice by not showing up.
Now let me ask you this:
Hmm.
with your time away from the actual building church,
Hmm.
would you go back? And if so, why? If not, why not?
When you say go back, meaning go back and being a member somewhere, or just going back and visiting?
Be a member.
Possibly right now in this very moment, I don't want to go back to be a member of having to go into the church house
Hmm.
just because it kind of tainted my feelings, I guess, of what if I get to a point again where I need to take some time away. And you know what? This goes back to this is not even the church that we went to. Having a conversation with my grandma. She before she passed, she was telling us that she got sick and wasn't going into church. And then when she got a little bit better, sitting in the church itself was very, very uncomfortable for her.
Hmm.
And so she wasn't going. And then with her being on a fixed income, she wasn't tithing regularly.
Okay.
And when she really needed them, they turned their backs on her and they threw that in her face that she wasn't tithing on a regular basis.
Wow.
And that hurt. That hurt her for one, because even when she was sick, she didn't have the church backing her, seeing about her,
Hmm.
checking on her, things like that. And so she was a member of that church. She died in her 80s. She was a little girl when she started at that church,
Wow.
being a member. So that in itself bothered me. And then my experience bothered me as far as being a member versus being a non-member.
Hmm.
Because even when we left, we did what we were supposed to do as members, and it wasn't received, I feel like, the way that it should have been, especially if we're trying to grow and go,
Hmm.
which so that part in itself also hurt. So I don't know if I would want to be a member per se of actually like going into a physical house, but I like being able to be a part of something. If that makes sense or if that answers your question.
That's not Christ minded. I don't know what that. Oh, service. Okay,
Mm-mm.
understood.
Nope. And that was some of the stuff that we dealt with.
Um,
What about you?
um, I feel as though that as I don't know about being a member
Hmm.
of any church. Um, it really depends on what is being taught. I will go to churches because I do want my kids to have a foundation of the creator, and from the teachings that I teach them and whatnot, they'll have a better understanding that I did
Hmm.
about a lot of different things, and they won't be so tied to the religious aspect of
Uh-oh.
church,
Hmm.
because I don't even want them to be quote unquote labeled as a Christian.
I
I
understand.
want them to have a understanding that, I mean, if anything, I would want you to be a quote unquote follower of the way. If you want to label it anything, that's what you will label it. Other than that, the I had a this is a sidebar. I had a conversation with a couple of my brothers and my father over the weekend, and one of the things that came up was religion.
Hmm.
And one of my brothers he was saying how he thought about being Muslim, and I was like, "Why?" He was like, "Well, there's a number of reasons why." And one of the things I told him, I said, "I'd actually admire Muslims when it comes to how often they pray and how disciplined they are
Right.
when it comes to their structure and whatnot." And I was like, who's to say that you couldn't take that just aspect that you see from Muslim or Islam culture and apply it to your life and your daily life, and not necessarily have to take a hajib or whatever it is. I don't know,
I don't know
to
how
to
that
be
works.
to be one.
Hmm. Well, I definitely know you got to do some stuff to convert. Don't you mean?
Yeah, you do, and I mean, of course, us as the Black African American, you want your kids to grow up quote unquote Christian because it seems like that's the majority of the way. However, I think that you really have to get your kids to understand more truth than anything and not just follow tradition just because your family told them to.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you don't want them to be worshiping Satan and with
Or
all,
just being lost.
yeah, but just basically, yeah, being grounded.
I say that because I don't understand how people don't believe in the
Mm,
Most High
I
and in
don't
God.
either.
I don't understand that.
I don't either.
Even though like I don't, I'm gonna say I don't carry the label of Christian. There's been so many things that I know it wasn't nothing but God that did that, and I don't understand. I can understand having different thought processes of it, but like the one guy that was on 85 South Show that we were listening to,
Mm-hmm.
where he said he feel like he manifests everything good that happens to him. And he said that everything bad that happens to him is a product of his own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Which I definitely understand that, but good or bad, I don't understand how you think that you manifest everything that's happening to you.
And see, even in that conversation, the boy DC was trying to tell him, like, listen, you're actually doing the things that a lot of the book tells you that you should do.
Yeah.
And just don't know that you're following the directions. And this is the results of you following the directions.
Of the way.
It's just that even though you don't believe, the directions still work,
Right.
regardless of whether you believe or not. So, um, even with that, like it's
It's mind blowing to me.
it's very mind blowing. It's very mind blowing.
Here's a comment.
Storia, adverse life experiences may cause people not to believe or turn their backs or no exposure to it.
I definitely agree.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
But there are some that just like don't believe it all. I understand how trauma and things like that can deter you one way or the other. But it is still mind blowing to me to people who haven't had any type of experience like that. Just
Yeah, I mean, there's atheists out there, of course.
yeah,
That
that's what I
just
mean.
and just look outside.
Shoot, homeboy said he manifested the the wind in the air.
Yeah, that was he was
He was
do it
on
again.
one.
But like the
He said he could feel it.
intricate
That's what
way
it
that
was.
our bodies are made up,
Hmm.
like from the top of our head to the soles of our feet, all the wires, all the veins, just everything and how it flows and whatnot. Like that is an
He
intricate
manifested that
mind.
when he was a
Yeah,
baby.
wow. How
Let
not
him
to be
tell it.
graphic, but just to
That's what he
turn
did.
a sperm
Yep.
and the and then he did all
He
that.
did all that for himself.
He's a part of that. I give him that. He's definitely a part of that.
How?
I mean, if he's a child of the Most High
Uh,
and he's a part of that,
mhm.
then I mean, like it's not like he had a pro like yo, give me them eyes, give me
Mhm.
them nose. But I'm just saying, like, I mean,
Speaking
he's
of
in there
that,
somewhere.
we know Tori and Ty are on here. Can you answer this question for Siani? She asked this 3 years ago. Yeah.
I don't know where you.
She said, "Are people in heaven twice?" She said,
Oh yeah, that
"They
was
say babies are born. Babies come from heaven and are born, and when people die, they go back to heaven. So are people in heaven twice?" What are y'all thoughts
that's
on
a
that?
baby.
Because
That's a good question. I don't. I listen.
she had us thinking.
I don't remember anything before I came here. I don't know too many people that's been on the other side to report back.
Right.
So listen,
Right. She
I'm gonna
even
have to hit
said,
you with it. I don't know.
remember we rode past the maternity place, and she said, "Huh, that's ironic. There's a place over there that where
Yeah,
babies are born, and then diagonal across the street is where people die. There's a funeral home directly across the street from it."
that was sad. Needless to say, when I seen that and noticed that, I was like, wow, just a cycle of life, just right
Yep.
here on this road, huh?
And then her little 6, 7 year old self came up with thought about it. And I was like,
Hmm.
wow, wow.
But so we would have loved more participation. But
That's all
needless to
right.
say, we understand that you guys are shy. Um, don't really want to speak out too much. But we can definitely share and be transparent on our end. Just to let you know that there's no hard feelings whatsoever to any of the previous churches that we've been a part of,
None.
whether it be separately or together.
Yeah, because
Because
we do have our own minds. That
plus,
was
I
all.
mean, I'm just saying, like before we got together, we went to.
But even
But
still,
even
you're being married. Your experience at the same place I was at was a little bit different from mine.
very much so, very much so.
Boy, stop.
But needless to say, um,
I'm trying
that's
to
where
clink this
we
bowl.
clink it. That
It's so
food is
really
good.
loud.
Clink it, clink, clink.
Because that would annoy me.
But
Mm-mm.
needless to say, overall, my opinion is that if the church wants to get the next generation coming up, um, what I mean, get Lord, that sounds so like get them. But
I
um,
know what you mean, though. I'm trying to think of a better word to use.
um, when I don't know, because it sounds so like competitionish.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to convince others that the church is the place to be or Christianity is the place to be. Thank you. We appreciate that. Y'all are doing great from bro. Appreciate that. Reach. I don't know what
Better word, because you said
uh
pull them in.
okay,
Pull
reach.
them in, gain them, win them.
If
So
you
reach
want
is a
to
better
reach
word.
the millennials, Generation Z, and I just found out my son is in Generation Alpha. Yeah. Needless to say, I hope he's not talking to AI, all that. Anyway, like by the time he get grown, it might have like it might be some Back to Future type.
He
We
is the
talking
back
to
to
Alexa
future.
now, but I'm saying yeah.
He is the back
But
to
needless to
future.
say, if the church Christian community wants to reach the next generation, there's going to have to be a lot more transparency,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to have to be a lot more of works than faith. And when it said that, meaning that if someone is going through something mentally and saying that they need help, prayer isn't just going to
The end
help.
all be
It's
all.
it's going to help, but there needs to be some help, whether it be counseling, whether it be mentoring, whether it be therapy, something of those type of sorts. There needs to be
Guidance.
some sort of like guidance and real solutions, and it just can't be on Sundays or the days that we want you to come to church. It really has to be something that's full time,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you're a part of, and really have it be a part of you. I mean, like if you're just wanting to be in position of power,
Mm-hmm.
then that shouldn't be what the church is for. Like there's businesses that you can go about doing that. Um, I mean, the church is supposed to be there to help, to serve, and not even just on the talking side. I mean, like if there's funds that are distributed to the church, there should be something set aside to help those that are in need or just to help the community in general, whether it be to buy a building and turn it into a rec center or just
Something.
something. There needs to be more action. I know I can say a lot and not do a lot. However, I know I have some plans in the works. As far as like what I want to do just to give back to the community, just because that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But needless to say, the church is a hospital. It should be. It should be. In some cases it is, in some cases it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 cents. Your last little 2 cents
Um,
is what the church need to do if they want to keep people.
I can't say what they need to do. I can say some traditions have to be revamped in order to reach people where they're at, because there are some people that want to be a part and want to join in, but because of the strict traditions and things that may be there that are not something that is of Christ, but it's just because it's a tradition. This is just what we do. But I think those things need to be looked upon and dropped per se in order to reach more people.
And
Oh,
teach the word for what it says,
yeah.
and don't scare people to look like they can't look outside of the book
Hmm.
either. Like there's so much literature out there, man. And when you have somebody boxed into that one book, then they venture off and read another book, it'll throw off their whole everything,
Hmm.
to be quite honest. So
It's a couple
we
of
got comments.
couple of them.
I heard a preacher say that our reach needs to divert from being millennial focused, as the oldest millennials is 40 years old. Well, dag. I mean, yeah, we are, but dag. Their minds are made up. We should be more focused on Gen Z or the millennials on the cusp of Gen Z.
Right.
And truthfully, sometimes when parents see change in their kids, it can influence them to see what's changing my child. So Gen Z may impact millennials at this point.
I agree.
Hmm, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Agree. You can
so,
right.
so the oldest two is in Gen Z,
Mm-hmm.
and Nehemiah is in Alpha.
Years Alpha and It's like I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
religion has to go. It's about relationship with God.
Yes,
Relationship over religion.
I
I totally
agree.
agree. I totally agree.
And see, and I think that's where the breakdown comes in because a lot of churches push the religion instead of the relationship.
And see, y'all think that us as millennials was asking a whole lot of questions. All right, this next generation coming up is blunt as can be. They don't want to hear no funny stuff,
Ain't got no chill.
none whatsoever. So that's why I give it to my kids straight up and down. You can research whatever you need to research, but you can hear a whole bunch of fluff out there in the world. Daddy's going to tell you the real,
Yep.
and you can maybe learn from the fluff, but Daddy going to keep it all the way 100 with you as far as what I learned and what I know, and go from there. So yeah, we don't. Yeah, we're not even gonna go into my household. Needless to say, we are well rounded, well sounded, well grounded.
Can I just say this millennial saying close to 40 bothers me because I still think of the 80s like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that that whole
And
we
the 90s too.
listen.
Like last decade was the 90s to me.
The last decade was the 90s.
In my
It
mind.
was
I know. And then when I write it down, I'm
more
like,
decades after
sheesh.
that. Yeah,
I know.
sorry, I get it though. It's
Listen,
like we stuck at the year 2000. It's like after that, nothing else exists.
99 to the 2000 is where we at. It just, dang,
Oh,
man.
when I looked at the age group, it was like from 81 to like 96. Some said from 80 to 2000.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, wow, yeah, we are about wrapping up this generation because we about 40. I mean, everybody in the 80s is
Dang.
coming up.
I know. I know. I live it.
Needless to say, I think we're the coolest generation.
I think
I'm
so
gonna
too.
always say that because I'm in it. But
Yeah.
so I feel like I want to say a prayer to end it, but I'm not gonna do it.
All right.
Oh, I wanted if Wells
He don't want to talk.
he don't want to talk, we're gonna try to add him in one more time to see if he'll say something. Brandon, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Said truth, no more hiding stuff. This because I said so. Yeah,
Nope.
yeah.
It's funny. I have a hoodie that says "Because I said so, mommy," and I do not even live life like that because I can tell, especially that Nehemiah, I can tell him something and he's gonna question everything.
That's my son.
If I say because I said so, he'll be like, "But it's not this." It's like, boy, remember when you were like, what time do you have to get off the phone? He said 9 o'clock. I said, well, it's almost 9 o'clock. Start getting ready to get off the phone. But it's 8:57. So, but it's close to 9 o'clock. But it's not 9 o'clock. It's 8:57.
Yeah.
I'm like, put the phone up. but it's not 9 o'clock though. I was like, oh my gosh.
But shit. Oh,
Oh,
it's not. Yeah, don't move. Let's add him in real quick.
What's up,
uh,
bro?
What's happening, man?
what's up, bro? I'm here.
You here?
I'm
All
juggling.
right, just real quick. Um, what are why do you think millennials are leaving the church? And millennials is born from 1980 to 2000.
Because there's the only word I can think of that you said is fluff. There's no realness. Like everything seems like it's premeditated, or you know what I mean? Like, cause they ain't stupid. They know real from real and fake from fake, and they can tell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And nobody talks directly to you for the most part. It's always something where you're getting talked at,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm.
that generation don't like that. I don't
Well,
like.
you're part of that generation
I, yeah,
too.
that's what I'm saying. I don't like that.
Right, right.
Manipulation. Right.
So I don't know. I guess that's my thoughts.
Now, um,
This part of my hair just won't stay out.
so with that being said, what do you think the best thing for them to do if they want to
Reach.
reach? I guess we're
Impression.
a lost cause. So Generation Z is next.
I think people want to see more more action outside of four walls
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and more truthful, open conversation and more of a friendship as opposed to a corporation, so to speak. Hierarchy,
Corporation.
like less of a hierarchy and more of an intimacy.
So that talk that versus talk to is important, and manipulation is a great word. I experienced that. I hated it. We needed truth. We need truth.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I can't expound on that enough when it comes to truth because I think that just the way that I'm wired is very similar to her when it says like I want to know the whys, and you can't
And if you don't know
when you,
why, it's okay to say that.
Right.
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 And then if I look deeper and I find out whys that I find is true, then it makes me question like you in a sense. You know what I mean? Because it's like either you're giving me this made up answer or you're just telling me to pray about it or that's not godly. When it's like this whole world can't be in this vacuum of what we have labeled as church and church teachings. Because as we both said, like once we went to college, it was like we wasn't thinking about church. It was life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's so much diversity when you go in just the adult world, let alone when you go to different colleges and whatnot, you experience so many different walks of life and so many ideologies to where it's like, okay, why is mine the greatest? Why is mine supposed to be the best when this person does X, Y, and Z? It's yeah, I don't want to go deep into that, but needless to say, um, I think you answered both the questions that we had. We thank you for joining us.
We thank you.
Man, my pleasure. My face looks round. I feel like it's the camera.
It's the angles. We got to work on the angles.
It's
That was
the,
on the angle.
it's the angle. All right, bro.
So, shameless plug. If anybody needs anything done to their home, whether it's remodeling from the top to the bottom, you can contact Echelon Remodeling and Contracting LLC, located with Brandon Barnwell. Just reach out to him via Facebook and he can help you out.
You got to list the other 15 businesses.
I
That he got.
I,
I gotta plug all the businesses.
No.
Okay, Echelon Events, Echelon Studios, Echelon Moving Company. The list goes on and on.
I'm about to ask Sky now.
Lord.
Nah, but we thank you for chiming in, good brother, man. Appreciate it. So we went a little bit over. But I had fun tonight.
I did too. Good conversation. It's
Um,
good conversation.
and we're gonna continue to have church at our house, if that's what you want to call it. But
I want to visit and do what
we're gonna
Todd
visit a
was
couple.
speaking.
We're gonna. I mean, we'll do that. But I mean,
Because Todd is speaking truth.
he does. Shout out to Launching Into the Deep on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Facebook. If you see me in the camera leaning forward, we got some new microphones. So shout out to my wife with her idea getting these microphones because we sounded like some boo boo for the past 7 episodes. So needless to say, we've upgraded.
We're evolving.
We are
and we're still going to
evolving.
be figuring things out.
Yep. So needless to say, we have gotten to our budget. These microphones. So shout out to all you viewers, all you listeners who have contributed, and shout out to our sponsor www.simplyshondell.com. That is our sponsor.
We.
So
You're funny.
I think that's a wrap.
Thank you, Miss Dale. She said we did a great job.
Thank you, Miss Dale. Thank you. I'm proud. I'm gonna take that as I'm proud from both of y'all. The Purnells.
Tracy,
thank you, Miss Tracy.
Stupid.
Thank you, mother.
Get on my
Thank
nerves.
you, mother. You have raised me well. You have gave me a great foundation. Please don't think.
Sometimes I want to give them back.
No, you don't.
I don't. I thought it was gonna be funny.
It wasn't.
There are times where I'm like, listen, I'm gonna find your mama.
Needless to say, you've given me a great foundation, and I've built on that foundation. So I was talking to my mom. Shout out to my mom.
Sorry.
And my father as well, because we was all raised in the church and everything. He still give me some wisdom. Just needless to say, don't give me too much religious talk because I can talk truth to you, and then you'll get mad. All right. So until then, that is my new word.
No.
Until next time.
It does not work. Until.
Thank you guys for viewing. Like, subscribe, YouTube channel. If you want to hear more content like this, let us know. If you have any ideas for any other shows, let us know.
Yes.
This was definitely supposed to be a forum. However, I think that you guys love speaking in the chat. Don't want to be on face and all that. I understand that. I get a little nervous myself. Never really wanted to be on camera. Always wanted to be behind the camera, but here I am because I'm doing the Lord's work. Oh, the Lord's work. Even with this or that music, that's the Lord's work. Let me stop. All right, yo. Y'all have a good evening. Take care.
See y'all in a couple weeks.
Bless. Shalom.
Shalom.